We're gonna try to play this so that you guys can see it and read it. I'm sorry if it's a bit shaky. I have to film from one phone to the other and then back. It takes a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. And this is what it's like having to do it in my car. I'm lucky I have two phones to work with, but only one of them goes onto YouTube or Facebook. And it's the one I'm using to get onto YouTube as well. It makes it very difficult. Alright, so this is December 12th of 2017. I've been speaking up for a while about what I've been going through. This is okay, so I guess I'll start from the beginning. So my mom left when Alicia and I were 3. She was 19 and married to my father. He was cheating and beating her. My dad told her that he was going to kill her if she didn't leave, so she left us as well and moved to Rhode Island. My dad was in and out of jail, and somehow my mom heard he was facing prison time. Alicia and I were 8 at this time. My dad was in the run, and my mom shows up. I knew who she was, but I was told awful things about her my whole life. That she burnt me with cigs, etc. But part of me knew knowing it was true. I was being raised by rich wolves. My mom fought for us for months. She got custody because we were being raised by awful humans. I was happy to leave. But I didn't know this woman I was calling Mom. I had a brother I'd never met, and I hated him. My mom left our family and started a new one, but he was a baby, so I didn't hate him for long. My dad moved to Rhode Island running. We went back and forth between them for years. My mom would lose us for having dangerous men around. Then we'd go back to my dad until he'd start doing drugs again. My dad got custody of us. He wasn't allowed to drink because he becomes demonic, but he's my dad, so of course he did. He was having an affair at the time, and I was woken up my screams from my stepmother, Shelley. They had two children by this time. He had been drinking and was trying to kill Shelley. He was hitting her face on the curb repeatedly until she wasn't moving. There was much more, but yeah, so my mom got custody for a long time. Then she married this very abusive man. It got to the point where the judge said she wasn't allowed near of us children. But he scared my mom, so she still let him live with us. Meanwhile, my dad moved back to Colorado. He came and proved he was there and took Alicia and I shortly after Dad had us selling drugs for him at 13 and 14. He was hitting us and doing drugs with us, while being a little too friendly. So my sister told on him. This was while I knew you at the park. We were put into foster care. My mom had moved to Virginia to get away from her husband, and we were in and out of foster homes. I hadn't spoke with her in a year or so before I asked her to come get me. They were going to hold me in a group home until I was 21. I wouldn't stop cheating, or wouldn't stop getting high. We moved to Virginia, and I think you know the rest. But that's most of my story. Now, the thing is, if you guys paid any attention to the messages between Natalie and I, you noticed that I was trying to run her off when she was 13 and 14. Her sister as well. That we did not become friends until they were adults. And that when they were adults, they thanked me for trying to run them off. Now, I copied and pasted this. This is what ultimately resulted in Natalie being 100 times more cruel than she had ever been before. I had to expose this and speak up because of the abuse I was taking, and that's what this video is about here, and I'm going to play it. If it'll let me. I'm at war with all of you. You are my enemies. You aren't going to fight for my human rights, but you want me to fight for yours. You want me to stick up for yours, even when you're wrong. It's wrong to want special rights for you. It is. This group bullshit is fucking bullshit. Blaming good men, because bad men do bad shit to you. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose this for any of you. There's a thing I just posted. Somebody sent it to me. Somebody who pretended to give it. Now that thing that somebody sent to me, that's what I just read to you. She'd sent it to me in 2016 when we were friends and she was an adult. But that doesn't matter. You don't bother with the conditions I was forced to live in. I was glad to have this garage, but the people who owned it were not very nice. When I talk about this group bullshit, I'm talking about Maddie Boa and her friends and their bullshit, preventing me from seeing my friends and family. The assaults, the threats, the harassment. Meanwhile, my friends and family didn't have the time to even listen to why I couldn't come see them. By this time, I'd been trying to get a lawyer for over a year. Come on, play. Shit. Somebody who pretended to care. I have people threatening me, threatening my life, threatening my family's life, calling me a child molester, calling me a rapist over this girl. The dude who fucking raped her called me up and threatened me over her. Tim Beeson. The guy who stole her fucking dog and fucking molested her when she was underage called me up to threaten my life. Tim Beeson again. My family's life. Tim Beeson again. He thought he was gonna scare me with a motorcycle club? Are you fucking kidding me, Tim, the bitch boy fucking Beeson? You child molesting fuck? Right here. Yeah, it's not me that's gonna fucking rape you, it's your goddamn dad. Well, you treat me like shit for it. And then you treat the guys who tried to fucking kill you like fucking kings. I'm not afraid of the cops. I'm not. I want them to come get me. I want them to fucking kill me.
No, let's pause this here. And we'll review that. First of all, there's this guy who was threatening to kill Natalie, who choked her out, who was threatening to shoot himself in the head because she wouldn't take him back, who had bought her a dog to try to get her to come back to him and then took her dog away. This guy who had given her drugs time and time again, her father as well. And Tim Beeson's getting a hold of me, telling me that him and his biker gang are going to harm my friends and family, including Jerry Sparks. It's horrible. Tim Beeson. Tim Beeson. Tim Beeson. And nobody cares. And all the accounts they made to harass me on, nobody cares. When I said I wasn't afraid of the police at this point, I was told that somebody was supposed to help me with this, to help stop the abuse. As soon as I got disability, somebody was supposed to help stop it. And it had continued and nobody had put a stop to it. At this point, I'd been treated like a child molester or a rapist for over a year, every time I'd gone to Boulder to see my friends and family. And many times on the internet by people that Natalie Bollinger knew. Well, in specific, one boyfriend, Tim Beeson, over and over and over and over and over. Phone calls, the internet harassment, over and over. I just wanted him to leave me the fuck alone. All Natalie Bollinger had to do was call off the dogs instead of playing victim, instead of turning me being dehydrated in Chesapeake, Virginia while visiting her at her request into some horrible monster out to get her. It's fucking stupid. But it's what I have to deal with. No, I wasn't afraid of the police. Not at that point. At that point, even though I'm always afraid of the police for good reason as a homeless person, at that point, Jeff Ritter was supposed to help me to put a stop to this. When I finally got the paperwork on the 16th, when it was supposed to be a visit with Natalie Bollinger to quote unquote stop all the crazy, as she put it, and it wasn't. It was a protection order from all the way in Virginia. Well, it turns out it wasn't from all the way in Virginia. Also, when I was asking about it, like, what do I do about this thing? I was told, well, there's nothing you can do about it. It's a protection order. In order to do something about it, you need an act of God. I'm like, that's not a legal answer. That's not how you stop this. That's not how you end this kind of abuse. These people don't get to harm me for over a year, prevent me from seeing my loved ones, assault me repeatedly, force me into situations where I have to live with fucking drug dealers who take advantage of my disability money. And then I'm forced to go through all sorts of therapy, driving all over Nebraska to Colorado to Nebraska to Colorado. All of that to try to get a stop put to something that Natalie could have just easily said, hey, you guys need to stop. Leave them alone. It's easy to say that, isn't it? As far as what I wanted from the police, yes, at that point I wanted them to end my life. What Natalie Bollinger and her friends had done to me was horrible. You don't do that to a person. And although Natalie Bollinger and Alicia Bollinger can both boast the claim that they never, ever said that I raped or molested them, the fact is, when people pretended that I raped and molested them, they never came forward and told them, no, he didn't. Knock it off. What the hell did they think was going to happen when people wouldn't leave me alone for things I didn't do? Jeff Ritter of the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless was supposed to help me with this at that point. I called him on the 16th to let him know what was going on. He said that the government was closed down until after the first of the year, but he'd get a hold of me after that there really isn't much we could do. It takes an act of God and so on and so on. No, it doesn't. Because there's evidence of the abuse. And if I'd have known I had a court date, I wouldn't have fucking missed it. I would have found a way to go.
Done with you people and your goddamn excuses. I don't deserve this fucking cruelty. Tim deserves this cruelty. Ted deserves this cruelty. That's right. What was she so pissed off about? I showed that I didn't deserve that abuse. This was December 12th of 2017. This is 3 days after I'd gotten a hold of her mom to beg for help stopping the abuse. You guys have gotten to see the evidence on my channel that Natalie Bollinger and I were in fact friends.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I paused it, apparently. Sorry. You also get to see that after a whole year of this, I did speak out loud on YouTube, on Facebook, because I was being abused and I did need help, and my friends were blowing me off. They were talking over me, telling me, well, why don't you go to the cops? Well, I did. They give me the mentally ill treatment. They say, hey, why don't you go to your friends and family? Well, because I go to my friends and family and they say, well, you should go to the cops.
And then I get the mentally ill treatment. It's horrible.
Circle. It's
I
horrible.
was living in a drug dealer's garage at that point. That's where my disability money was going. It was going to paying a drug dealer in Colorado rent for a garage so that I could be close to where the services were along the Front Range of Colorado, even though all of my disability stuff was in Nebraska. But Nicole Pralta, she was my therapist in Nebraska, told me I needed to go to the Front Range of Colorado to get a stop put to this abuse. So that's what I did. I did it because I was told to. And you're right, they didn't tell me to go stay with a drug dealer. I had no other place to go, though. I couldn't go to Boulder without being assaulted by tweakers. See, that's the thing. I spoke up before Natalie was killed. I spoke up well before Natalie was killed, and I let Natalie know why it is that I was speaking up. I needed help stopping the abuse. All I needed her to do was call off the dogs. Tell Maddie to knock her shit off. I understood why Natalie was embarrassed. I totally do. That's no excuse for destroying an innocent man's life. Very next day, she called me up and said I screwed things up way worse with her family. Hung up on me. Then I got a message from her saying that she wanted to meet me in Boulder. I thought she was still in Virginia. I went to Boulder. The people that were going to go with me didn't go with me, but I had to walk over 100 blocks to get to the bus stop so that I could catch a ride to see Kayla Trujillo before she went to work because she worked in Boulder. None of this was done right. Nobody cared about the law. Nobody cared about jurisdiction. What they cared about was treating a homeless person like he was guilty and not giving him the opportunity to protect himself or defend himself. I had to stay with drug dealers who were taking advantage of me. I had to move out of my assisted living in Chapel, Nebraska so that I could go to the Front Range for help that I still never received. Instead of the government using getting disability as an excuse to do their job about the abuse, instead they use it as an excuse why they didn't. Oh, he's mentally ill. No, I'm disabled. I'm at risk and I'm being abused and I'm telling you this and you're taking advantage of my disabilities and talking over me. Anyone would be overwhelmed. What Matty Boa was running around and spreading, and what Tim Beeson was running around and spreading, were fucked up. Nobody should have to go through this. Alright, so this is December 12th of 2017. I've been speaking up for a while about what I've been going through. This is okay, so
Alright, it just restarted. So I guess I'll end this. Like I said, at that point, I didn't know how to do all this fancy stuff at all that I know how to do now. And I don't know how to do much of that fancy stuff. And a lot of that fancy stuff requires me to have certain amenities. You know, in order to use a computer that has a shitty battery, you got to be able to plug it into the wall while you use it. In order to send stuff across the internet, you have to have the internet access. In order to access some place, because you don't have a residence, a place like the library, you got to be able to carry that stuff in there. And if you can't, you have to pay somebody your disability money to carry that stuff, or hope somebody will volunteer. Run around and beg people if you can borrow their good back. I'm going to end this video, but this is just part of much evidence that I was trying to get help. That the reason that I was on the internet is because I was reaching out for help, because these people were pushing me to the point I wanted my life to end. And instead of trying to understand why, instead of trying to understand what being treated like a rapist or a child molester is really like, these people wanted to blow me off because it was mostly women. Mostly women who say, oh, I understand what it's like to be called names. No, this isn't just calling someone names. People assault you over bullshit like that. And Maddie Boa never should have run around saying that shit, and neither should have Tim Beeson. They never should have fucking harassed me about it.